Hi everyone, it's Sherry, and today I'm going to be using the MFT blueprint number 27. I'm taking this little comic strip frame, if you will, and I am laying it down on another piece of white cardstock, and I'm taking my pencil and I am marking the inside lines of the squares in the rectangle. I'm also going to be using a retired stamp set. Please don't fuss at me. This is the Merry Christmouse stamp set that was a collaboration between Lawn Fawn and Simon Says Stamp. I bought this last year when they brought it back. However, I never used it, so I wanted to use a lot of the stamp sets that I got last winter and just didn't have a chance to use. You could use this same technique and use some of the other smaller critter images that Lawn Fawn is so famous for. I have everything in my MISTI, and I am just lining up my stamps right inside of the areas in which I marked off. Now I'm going to preface this video with this is a comedy of errors. I decided to use some white cardstock that was recommended by a fellow crafter. Please do as I say and not as I do. I wanted to do some Copic coloring, and I was not very successful using this cardstock. So if you want a Copic color, please invest in some Nina Solar White or whatever Copic friendly paper that fits your budget. This cardstock that I'm using is less expensive than the Nina Solar White, but I could also tell it was not the quality, and I struggled with a lot of the blending. I struggled with blending the Copic markers themselves, and I struggled with some other blending techniques that I'm going to show you in just a few minutes. And I apologize that I am off camera here while I'm doing my stamping. I did remove a little bit of the ink from the bottom of the stocking and from the tail of the mouse on the left. I'm going to use my chamois to clean off my stamps. I have cut a mask for all of my critters and the cheese present. And I have put the mask down on the cheese, and I'm going to stamp my last little mouse. And again, for this one, I am going to wipe off a portion of the tail because I did not want that to go too far outside of the boxes that I had drawn in. I'll get that last stamp cleaned off and get everything out of my MISTI. And I've taken some Post-it tape and I have marked off the area of that large rectangle, and I'm using a white eraser to erase the pencil lines. I'm using some Distress Oxide ink in Broken China, and I'm filling in that area of the rectangle, keeping it darker towards the top, kind of blending out towards the bottom. Now all of my critters have been masked off, as well as the cheese present. So from here I'm just going to keep moving my Post-it tape and blocking off each of those square areas until I have all of the boxes colored in. I'm removing all of the Post-it tape, and then I'm going to take my Distress sprayer and give this a light spritz, and then dab up the water droplets with a Kleenex. Now to the Copic coloring. For the cheese, I'm using a Y17 and a Y23. And I think I used maybe 2 or 3 colors for each of these images because they are so small. There's just not a lot of area here to color. And I immediately knew I did not like the way the markers were moving on this paper. But I was already vested, so I just had to keep going forward and try to make the best of what I had started. Using the R24 and R29 to do the hat on the middle mouse and the stocking. And I'm really just doing minimal shading, not really paying attention to light source, just trying to map out the areas that I think would have a shadow. So C3 and C0 for the white portions of the hat and the stocking, and then a little R20 for the inside of the ears and the cheeks. And yes, I forgot the one in the middle, but I will come back and get it. I'm going to be coloring 3 of the mice with the combination of E23 and E25. Just laying down my darker colors in the shadow areas and trying desperately to blend out with the lighter colors. And for the mouse in the middle, I'm going to be using the W4 and the W3. And I'm going to go back in with the R20 and get his ears, and I am going to redo the cheeks. They kind of got blended away, and the little pom-pom on the top of the hat. Now, you can see here, because I used the Distress Oxide inks and I stamped my greeting first, it got a little dulled out. And I also went back in and added just a little bit more red to that stocking, because it being a little wavy on the bottom was bothering me. And I was afraid you might be able to see it after I put down the frame. So I'm using a Copic safe marker, and I'm coming in and darkening up some of those areas that the Distress Oxide ink kind of dulled down. And then I'm going to come in with my Spectrum Noir clear glitter brush, and I did the bows on the presents. And I will come back in at the end. I don't show it on the camera, but I also do the same for the red portion of the stocking and the hat. So I've used some foam tape on the back of the frame, and I'm just putting that down in place. Just going to give it a little bit of dimension and set everything towards the back. I'm using the Sentiment Have a Mice Christmas from the same stamp set, as well as the Cheese Tree. And I'm just using the same Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink. I'm going to stamp that on the inside of a lipstick red card base. I'm going to be using some Nouveau adhesive to adhere down my panel. So if you're going to be doing some Copic coloring and you don't have any already, please try the Nina Solar White. I think that you are going to see a difference in your Copic coloring, and it's going to be on the positive side for you. So here's my card for today. Thanks for joining. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye now.